Shalom Yasharala. It's your brother Dawud Daw from GMS Tampa Bay 07, coming at you with another video. First and foremost, I want to say all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone that rule well. And salutation to you brothers pushing this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth. Alright, I want to get into this quick lesson. Dealing with, basically just being a man, and the type of conversation we should be having with one another, and just the reality of the things that we got going on. You might be vexed, not might be, but if you're a man of the Lord, you should be vexed at a lot of the things going on around you, and I know for myself, it's just real vexation going on right now, in everything, any way you look, no matter what you look at, whether it be the economics, the state of the mind of the people that we have to live around, just people you have to deal with on the job, any and everywhere. When you're dealing with politics and the things that they're trying to push and stuff like that, it's just when you hear all of this and you watch all of this, when you're watching the news and stuff like that, it's real vexation. I was talking to one of my brothers, and we was talking about one of the situations in the news, and he happened to bring out something that there's only like 144,000 real men on this planet that's going to be standing up for righteousness, and standing up, to hate the evil and love the good, more or less to say, and condemn all this wickedness. They're going to be bothered by this stuff, They're going to be bothered by people being offended by signs that don't really represent them, like a transgender person don't feel represented at the bathroom sign, more or less to say. That kind of folly and wickedness. But nevertheless, we're going to jump into this here lesson. All right, we're going to start off with 2 Peter chapter 2, or 2 Peter chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 3. Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lust. Okay? Now, they're walking after their own lust. We're talking about, people, you have the men, the real men, the 144,000 in their mindset, we understand this wickedness, we condemning this wickedness, but you have these basically these scoffers, or the people on the other side, the rest of the people, the heathen, more or less to say, that they just walking after their own lust, they don't care, they like, if I feel like if genetically, if you was born a male and you feel like, I feel like I should be a woman, I should be a transgender woman, or whatever the other, X amount of numbers of genders that they got, or more or less to say, whatever you feel like, they should be represented like that. And they say also, I feel like you should address me as whatever pronoun I want to be addressed as. I don't want to be addressed as a he or her. I want to be addressed as a, they got some shit now, some Zen or some Zerk or some shit like that, And so they're forcing people to more or less to address them how they want to be addressed, They're walking after their own lust, And a real, I think that's kind of funny. I'm like, okay, we could live like that. I just want all you heathen to address me as Lord, Esau to address me as Lord, And how would that sound? You walk around all these women, like, nevertheless, if it's just wickedness that they're dealing with, But verse 4, and saying, where's the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continued as they were from the beginning of creation. For this they are willingly ignorant, that the word of the Lord, that by the word of the Lord the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. Okay? See, they don't understand, like, when we're out here talking, there may be a situation where, somebody wants to talk about their feelings. I feel like I'm a transgender, or I got a gender something, whatever, dealing with their gender. And, you come up and you rebuke that. You be like, you know what? The Most High made male and female, And, this is just evident. It's evident in all kind of different ways. Now they're trying to say, well, science say that, your gender is basically assigned by whatever you think it is, But I'm like, and these same people will say, science tells you that. But also science will tell you that, you could take a person that's been dead for a couple hundred years, if you find their skeleton, their skull, just by looking at, just their skeleton, the bone structure is different. A male skull is different from a female skull, Male hips are the male pelvis is different from the female pelvis, The female pelvis has to be able to widen up for babies to come through, So, and even just, you know, a lot of the bone structures, a lot of the bones are different. You could tell a male bone from a female bone. You don't have to have the flesh or the anatomy to be able to tell whether it was a male or a female, you know. And this is being concluded by the same scientists that they're claiming that the scientists are saying that, you know, your gender or whatever is made up by whatever you perceive it to be, you know. But nevertheless, um, you know, they're not ignorant. They're ignorant of the fact of, you know, what the Most High says this is that, but they're going off of their own, the lust of their own imagination, more or less to say. They don't believe in the Most High, you know. They will, when is his coming? If he's so real, when he coming back, more or less to say, you know. It says, verse 7, but the heavens and the earth which are now by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. See, they living on in their little fantasy life, not knowing they're gonna be destroyed. And all you trying to do is tell them, like, look, bro, we on a boat and you over here drilling a hole in the bottom of the boat in the middle of the ocean. We finna drown, bro. And they're telling you back, like, nah, man, if I feel like drilling a hole in the boat, let me drill a hole in the boat. Let me do me. I want to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't believe that we're going to drown. Like, you know, you believe in whatever you want to believe in. I want to believe in if I drill a hole in the boat, we going to be all right. You know, and you start telling them, all right, man, we finna drown. And then you start drowning, and now they want, you know, help, you know. But it says, verse 8, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. The Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but long suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but all should come to repentance. Okay, now that's actually talking about the elect, more or less to say. Not everybody, you know, you're not waiting on, you know, because I got a comment on one of my videos where this lady was saying that, you know, basically this scripture here is going into saying that the Most High is giving Satan's army time to convert, more or less to say, which is madness. But, you know, especially going into what we're reading here, you know, talking about these basically these scoffers, or these people, you know, in their own lust. You know, these people, you see these people out on the highways and the byways. You're trying to teach them something, and they just going off on their own, you know, their own tangent. You know, we had this bug out come up to camp screaming, God is love, God is love, God is love. And if you hate these people, I can't be with you. You'd be like, well, wait a minute. You know, God is love, you know, but not unto the definition of what you thinking it is, you know. God is also a just God, you know. He's a balanced God, you know. God also says he hates, you know. God said he loved Jacob and hated Esau in the same sentence. So, you know, and it's a vain imagination to think and believe that you have feelings and emotions that your creator, that, you know, the one that created you and gave you all that you have, he don't have, you know. He didn't give you some kind of intelligence that he don't have, you know. What kind of vanity is that? Then you must be on some kind of level that he's not on, you know, if you believe that, you know. It says, verse 10, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat, and the earth also and the works there that are therein shall be burned up. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness, you know? And this is the meat of the scripture I wanted to get into, you know? This is dealing with, you know, scoffers and stuff talking about, you know, the Lord ain't coming. You always talking about that, this and that, but also on a lot of other topics. You know, you got people out there having vain conversations about just vanity, you know, the football game and this and that. You might tell them, you know, that ain't important. The important deal is, what we gonna do about this? We need to be doing this work. And then they, man, look, the Lord ain't coming back. The Lord ain't doing this. You know, we gotta worry about this. You gotta get your money up. You gotta go do this. You gotta excel in this place called Babylon, you know. So it says, seeing that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought you to be in all holy conversation? Basically saying, man, the fuck up, you know. There's a big issue that's right here. There's a big elephant in the room. Everybody else wants to ignore that elephant, but you got to be the man in the whole room to sit there and address that elephant in the room, you know. And Esau is that elephant. That wickedness that he's putting out is that wickedness, you know. Everybody else wants to ignore all of that, you know. Oh, you know, let the transgenders, you know, do what they want to do and believe what they want to believe and have their way. Yeah, until you have kids and your kids have to grow up into that system and they become brainwashed and they come home cutting their rod off. Then when they grow up, they be, you know, destroyed, you know. I watched another video about a little girl who was raised by two lesbian parents, you know. And it was the saddest thing to hear her account of how that shit destroyed her life. She grew up missing something in her life. She didn't know what it was. And to hear a woman who was yearning for her father the whole time, and that was just crazy. Just to think, about what you people are doing to these folks. You taking away, you lying to them, and giving them something. And this whole thing, that whole video was a big summary of what's going on. You lied to this child. You just sat here and gave them what you wanted them to believe. But in nature, the naturalness of it all, she's still gonna yearn for what the fuck she needs. She was born not knowing she was born not knowing that she had a father. She was born thinking that she had two mothers, but something still inside of her, even though you tried to hide that information, told her she was missing something. She was asking herself at a young age, where do I get these qualities and these traits from? Where do I get this look from? I don't see this in either one of my so-called parents, either her two mothers. You tried to hide this from her, and all of a sudden now she's looking for these things. And this is also like the elect. We were out there looking for truth. We didn't understand what we were missing. We didn't know that we was separated from our power, from our God and stuff like that, because you bastards and lied to us. And we started seeking out truth, and then all of a sudden we found it. But nevertheless, to go on to say the filthy conversation of these people and how it destroys people's lives. You got to be careful of let me reread this. Seeing that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation? Look, we got something dire going on right now, and like you need to basically watch all the things that you be saying, and take account of that, and understand that you're gonna be the light to the world, and people gonna be looking to you for certain things, like in that scenario with the two lesbian mothers and the daughter, the mothers were supposed to be a light unto the little child, to raise the child up, give her guidance and stuff. But they already corrupted her by not giving her all the information she needed to have in life, not letting her know that she had a father. So when she, in her own mind, is trying to figure out what's missing in her life, she's looking for guidance and she don't know where to go, because the people who were supposed to guide her had taken away that guidance. So now she's just lost out there, And the same what we out here doing, you could be out there around people who don't know this truth yet, and yet you're talking about some some things that are not so important in life, not giving them the whole information they should be getting. You over here talking about the basketball game, the football game, this and that, when you got a nuclear target over top of America right now. You got this microchip about to come out right now. You got Jacob's trouble about right around the corner. You got all these things boiling up right here around the corner, but yet you choose to keep that information back. You choose to not necessarily talk about that. You're gonna how do I say, these things should be already vexing to you in your mind, to where you can't control what you talk about, because every time you open your mouth, more or less, to say, you only opening your mouth to address something that's more or less serious or whatever. I know I get this a lot when I'll be around people. People always come, man, you always preaching. All right, bro, stop with all that preaching. You always talking about this and you always talking about that. It's kind of uncontrollable when you out and about, when you with some people. Let's say you might be over with a friend that's in the world or whatever, or out with a friend that's in the world. Let's say you out at a bar with a friend in the world, right? And you at the bar drinking with a friend, and now you look over and you see two women kissing, two men kissing, and you happen to, man, this vexation, this wickedness, these motherfuckers need to be put to death, because they not, in order for any of these homosexual couples to have a child, they got to have a third person, a third party, and this is another, the natural order. So you automatically go into this conversation because this is vexing. This is the elephant in the room. It needs to be addressed. More and more people need to know about this shit, and why they about to be destroyed because of this type of shit going on right now. You can't just keep hiding that up under there and leaving these people to how do you say, waddle in their vain imaginations. Next scripture, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 14. I'm going to start at verse 1. Follow after charity and desire spiritual gifts, but rather that you may prophesy. Okay? And so, we getting into the things that the conversation we should be wanting to talk about, and the things that we should be speaking on. For he that speaketh in the unknown tongue speaketh not unto men, but unto God, for no man understandeth him, howbeit the Spirit speaketh mysteries. Okay, now this here is speaking about speaking in tongues, as far as and praying, and people understanding you, as far as and what language and stuff you're speaking in and stuff like that, you know. But you know, there's also a flip side to this, you know. So what they're trying to break down here is, if all of you speak English, right, and I'm coming to you with this lesson in Chinese, what profit does it have for you? If you don't speak Chinese, this is an English outlet, you know. If I'm on the English airways and I'm speaking Chinese, what profit does it have you, you know? I can have the best known secret to how to make $1 billion that everybody should know, you know, on an English outlet, but yet I'm speaking Chinese. It's not going to profit anybody. So this is what they're breaking down, but nevertheless, you know, there's something also in it, you know, as far as, you know, people speaking, just speaking in folly, you know, what benefit is that going to have you in these times, you know, like we just read, when knowing that what manner of conversation shall you be in, knowing that all these things are going to be melted away. You know, we're gonna basically compare, you know, speaking in these unknown tongues to where people can't understand you, as to speaking in this unknown tongue that's not edifying or building nobody up. You know, you're just talking about the Kardashians and folly and that type of shit. You know, it's the same thing. You might as well be speaking a different language, because it's not of edification. You know, you need to be bringing out these prophecies, things that make sense right now. You know, it makes more sense. It's more plain English to be speaking about, you know, the book of Ezekiel 38 and stuff, the war, Gog and Magog and stuff like that at a time like this, because Russia's actually talking about bombing America. You know what I'm saying? That's something that's, you know, for an example, that's me speaking to you in English on an English outlet instead of me speaking to you in Chinese on an English outlet. You know, it would be of no profit for me to be telling you about the city of Atlantis, or just some shit that don't make sense right now. You know, it would be pointless for me to be telling you about the specs of the World Trade Center, the first World Trade Center. What gain does that have you right now? You know, all of this shit finna be blown up. What do you need to do to get up out of here? You know, that's more important. It says, but he that prophesies speaketh unto men to edification and exhortation and to comfort. So he that prophesies is speaking unto edification, you know, to build people up. You know, he that speaketh in an unknown tongue edifieth himself, but he that prophesies edifieth the church. So speaking in an unknown tongue, again, we talking about that as far as, for this scenario, we talking about that as basically telling somebody is something that has no value in this point in time right now. You know, you telling somebody about you know, what happened in the Vietnam War, World War I, and stuff like that. At that point in time, none of that matter right now. You know, we about to enter into World War III. You know, we at the time of the Lord's coming. So, you know, who give a fuck about what kind of harp David was playing? You know, I mean, at some point in time, that could be somewhat edifying. But we look, man, it's time to get on that bus, right? You know, it's like you go into an airport and you waiting in that line to go ahead and get checked. You know, you got to have your ID out and your ticket out and everything like that. You know, it ain't no time to be sitting over there trying to be on Facebook and taking selfies. You be done missed your plane. You know, it says, I would rather that ye all speak with tongues. I would rather that you all speak with tongues, but rather you prophesy. For greater is he that prophesieth than he that speaketh with tongues, except he interpret, that the church may receive edifying. Again, so everything that we supposed to be speaking, like we read in Peter, is, you know, that holy conversation is to edify, to build up. You know, we building up, you know, a new nation to take over, you know, a new kingdom, you know, to take over this kingdom, you know. Verse 6, now, brethren, if I come unto you speaking in tongues, what shall I profit you, except I shall speak to you either by revelation, or by knowledge, or by prophecy, or by doctrine? Again, like, what is it going to profit you if I speak to you in Chinese? If I did this whole lesson in Chinese, what good is it for you, you know? It says, verse 7, and even things without life giving sound, whether pipe or harp, except they give a distinction in the sounds, how shall it be known what is piped or what is harped? You know, think about any song, any song, you know, or instrumental. If those sounds that those instruments were making, if they weren't on different notes, if they was all just the same note, you just played one note, you know, B flat throughout the whole song. If there's no distinction between the different notes, you don't have a song. You just have one constant sound. You know, you can't interpret the beat. You know, when you listen to the radio, you know, I believe there's only 7 notes in music, right? When you listen to the radio, you got those same 7 notes. but they're arranged in different ways to make different songs and different beats, different tones, to where you interpret them to be different. Where a slow song having, being created with the same 7 notes, is different from a fast song that's also created with the same 7 notes, but because they're arranged different, you interpret them a little different. So if they don't have a distinction, if they just the same babbling that everybody else in this world is babbling about, because like I said, there's only, like my brother said, there's only 144,000 men out here. So everybody else out of the 7 billion, they all speaking in this so-called B flat note. Everybody's saying the same ass note. That there's no distinction in it. It's just folly. All they talking about is folly and foolishness. Whereas we're bringing up that one distinctive song. We're bringing out that song that that should be catching people's ears and stuff and building them up. It says jump over to verse 19, read 19 and 20. Yet in the church I rather speak 5 words with my understanding, than by my voice I might teach others to do also. That by my voice I might teach others to do also, than 10,000 words in an unknown tongue. Okay? So again, this is talking about, speaking in a different language, more or less to say, but we equating this vain babbling these people got going on. I rather speak, whenever I open my mouth, I rather speak edifying words, speak on these prophecies that's coming out, speak on the future, what's coming, speak on the things that are to come, and the understanding and to comfort people with their scenarios, waking people up to who they are, I'd rather be able to speak those things than to know all the sports stats and, all the specs of certain cars and, all kind of stuff like that. I rather know, these scriptures, whether it be 4 or 5 scriptures, I'd rather know those and know the T, know those down to the T than to know all of Steph Curry's stats, because Steph Curry and his stats and all that, if he ain't a man of the Lord, he's gonna just basically be missile food, And if Lord will not be a man of the Lord, and I only know 5 scriptures, and I'm out there pushing those 5 scriptures out, the Lord's gonna deliver me out of this judgment that's coming, So I'd rather speak those 5 words, with being able to edify than those 10,000 words. It's just vain babbling, It says verse 20, brethren, be not children in understanding. Okay, so again, being a man, real men understand. Thing about this is, when you were a child, and if you had your father around, you was being a child talking about childlike things, whereas your father was always on manly type of things, making sure the bills was paid, making sure you had food on the table and a roof over your head. Your conversation, his conversation was different. As a child, I thought like a child, but when I became a man, more or less, I thought like a man. I put away my childish things. It says, brethren, be not children in understanding. Okay, don't be out here talking about things that's gonna melt away. These stats and basketball games. You got your side times. Your life on the side type of deal. But I know I got an uncle that could tell you any and every stat of any NBA player all day long. I'm like, if you could have that kind of understanding and retain that kind of information on these scriptures, how much more would you be? Just think about that. How much more valuable would you be in the eyes of the Lord to know all that you know about those sports stats? If you knew that, like these scriptures, you could be pulling these scriptures out like that. You could be building up and edifying people and bringing them back into the fold. Bringing them back to this truth, bringing them back to the Most High. But yet and still, you can sit there and edify people on a sport game. And which those players are going to be retired after a while, and at the end of the day, all that's going to be missile food again anyway. So what profit does it have you? And you're not really making a good profit out of it. Let's say you could be a sportscaster, you could be getting paid off of that information, but even if you were doing that money and that job and all that stuff is going to still get melted away, but you could be profiting off of this word here. Right now, I'm making a so-called investment right now into the Most High. I'm working for the Most High, trying to get those tokens basically put on my account to okay, my faith by my works. So Lord willing, that this is how do I say that this is making my calling and my election sure. It's like you studying for a test. Those that study good for a test, they're gonna do good on the test. Those that don't study at all, when that test comes, they ain't gonna know what to do. And when you building yourself up with knowledge of sport games and all kind of extra stuff like that, then You're not studying for a test. You got a math test coming up, and you over here studying Pokemon. You know, yeah, you're gonna know a lot about Pokemon, but when it comes to this math, you ain't gonna know nothing about that. And it's the same way with this conversation. It says, brethren, be not children in understanding, howbeit in malice be ye children, but understanding be men. Okay, man up, you know, and face this elephant that's in the room. You know, this is the book of Romans. This is the book of Romans, chapter 1. I'm going to start at verse 18. For the wrath of Yahweh is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth and unrighteousness. Again, we're talking about the conversation of people and just they vain babbling and, you know, how they going off speaking just in vanity, more or less to say, you know. It says, against all the ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth and unrighteousness. You know, we try to tell them, you know, a man's supposed to be with a female and a woman's supposed to be with a man, but they like, nah, we want to be with whoever we want to be with, you know. Like your DNA and what the Most High created you as, whether it be male or female, that's what you are. Like, nah, we feel like we supposed to be this, and that, you know. They hold the truth and unrighteousness, okay. Verse 19, because that which may be known of Yahweh is manifest in them. Okay, like that's just simple, man. Like, who's controlling your heart pumping? Serious. Like, once your heart, your heart is the one that's pumping everything inside your body. But like, who's controlling that? You know, who's controlling your breathing? Okay, you know, you're not even mindful of the very hands that your own life, your own breath is in. You know, you don't even understand that. You know, something's got to give you that constant to keep you going. Something's got to thump your heart to keep it going, you know. It says, verse 19, because that which may be because that which may be known of God, of Yahweh, is manifest in them, for Yahweh hath showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things which are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so they are without excuse. This is straight science right here, you know. For the invisible things of him from creation of the world, which are clearly seen. How are the invisible things clearly seen? What does that mean? The invisible things that are clearly seen, you know. Let me think of something. Let me find you something. You know, this is a you know, a mouse, right? You know, you can clearly see that this is a mouse, right? You know, you can clearly see it is tangible as a hard object. But can you see the elements that created this? Can you see the atoms, the neutrons, the electrons? Can you see all of that? You can't see none of that. You can't see none of that stuff. You have to break that down under microscopes and things like that, you know. You can't see none of those things, but yet it exists, you know. And with and the same, you know, the same elements that, you know, your body's made up of a bunch of elements and stuff that you can't necessarily see, but yet it's there, you know. You know, you can't see you know, here's a good one for you. You know, people can't say they can't believe in things they can't see, but you believe that you breathe in air, right? You believe you breathing in oxygen. The invisible things are clearly seen by the things that are made, you know. Just like the wind, you can't see the wind, but you can see the effects that the wind is having on the elements, like the trees and things like that, you know. You can't quite see the Most High face to face, but you can see the things that are created. Everything is created here perfect, you know. Everything here has balance. Everything can sustain itself. You know, we've been sat here with everything to perpetually keep feeding us, you know, a perpetual cycle. But yet you want to think that we just got here out of some kind of random, you know, some kind. Where does the rain cycle, the water cycle start, and where does it end? Okay, there's a deep question for you. What started it, and what's going to stop it, and what's keeping it going? Okay, somebody had to design that. That was designed by, you know, a mastermind, more or less, to say there's the right amount of water so that we don't flood, and there's just enough water so it don't all evaporate, but it's in a continuous cycle, you know. And there's enough heat that's being produced onto the water for just enough time for just enough of it to evaporate and fall back down, you know. Same with the plants and the food. There's just enough seeds to keep falling and keep replanting for all the years we've been here, you know. Since the creation of earth, there ain't never been another apple more or less put on this earth since the creation of time, you know. Most High put, you know, a certain amount of apples and apple seeds on this planet Earth, and they just started flourishing from there, and all the way down into this day. You know, no new, more or less to say. You know, we didn't run out of this, and then all of a sudden he was like, okay, let me go ahead and put another one. No, that's why he said every fruit was made with the seed thereafter. You know, it says verse 21, because that when they knew Yahweh, they glorified him not as God, neither were they thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish hearts was darkened. Okay, when they knew the Most High, they knew that, you know, all you motherfuckers know how you got here. You know that your mama had sex with your daddy, and your daddy had sex with your mama, and he busted nut, and that nut went inside of her, got onto her ovaries, and from his sperm you was created. Okay, none of us got here because two women decided to have sex and procreate. None of us got here because two men decided to have sex and procreate. We know that, you know, we already knew that. We knew that when we got here, but yet in our vain minds, in the darkness of our own mind, and our own foolishness, we want to say, nah, you know what, we can make it happen some other way. You know, all the different generations before us, we all got here the same way, but now all of a sudden you got a better way of doing it. It says when they knew God, they glorified him not as God. You know, you knew how you got here beforehand, but now you want to go a different way. You know, the Most High said everything has its own seed after it to bear with itself and be fruitful and multiply. You know, two men having sex trying to procreate, that's not being fruitful and multiplying. Verse 22, professing themselves to be wise, they become fools. Okay, and a lot of this doctrine is being pushed out in these colleges where their teachers are called what? Professors. What are they professing? Professing themselves to be wise. And then what do you get the outcome? All these so-called college-educated students, they come out becoming fools, thinking that they got all these different genders, and they got all these different feelings and all these different type of things going on. You know, they become fools. You know, they waxing worse and worse and worse and worse. You know, every year that goes by, every new invention and device that come out, where they're getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. You know. Professing themselves to be wise, they become fools and change the glory of the uncorruptible God into the image made like to corruptible man, and to bird and four-footed beast and creeping things. You know, saying that there ain't no God, but they are God, and they can create things the way they want to create things. You know, and the only way that to bring life into this planet is no longer a male having sex with a female, but if you come through with our, what they call that, and artificial insemination type of thing. Two men can have a baby, two women can have a baby. You know, you can get a donor. Oh, you know, we can do it this way. You know, these vegetables and plants don't need to have seeds. We can control them and plant them without seeds. You know, and grow them without seeds. Have seedless. You know. It says, verse 24. Wherefore Yahweh also gave them up. So they was giving up. Okay. This is why you see all these people walking around and this folly and this is vexing in these words, and this is gonna make the distinction between you being a real man and the people you're dealing with. They don't understand this. They can't see this. And you wonder how people could be so fucking dumb.